Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to another edition of Quarantime. Hope everyone's nice and comfy. If you're at work, congratulations. If you are having the opportunity to stay home, do something for yourself. Oh, wait, you already are. You're here with us. This is the special sports ball edition of Quarantime. We've got lots of information to cover. However, I don't think any of it's sports related. Let's just be honest. Trump be cool for the win. Thanks, bud. Thank you so much to the mods. Keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to all our viewers who have already liked and shared this broadcast. If you haven't, and you can find it in your heart, please do us a favor. Help us get this word out. Hopefully, all the subscribers just got a notification. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to go outside. The sun is shining. It's beautiful. I'd like to walk down the boardwalk and see a bunch of other people and know that we don't have to pretend like we need to stay inside any longer. All right, guys, please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. In the year 2020, it is so important to keep your body healthy. Collagen may be the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth. The older you are, the more likely it's caught your attention, and for good reason. Many health experts now agree that consuming collagen is as crucial as it gets to renew and revitalize how you look and feel. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and is essentially the glue that holds you together. In fact, after age 20, people produce about 12% less collagen in their skin each decade. And for some, it's an even greater decline. This means that by the time you're middle-aged, you could be producing less than half of the collagen you did in your youth. Even worse, various lifestyle factors you may have been exposed to, like poor diet, smoking, pollution, stress, and excess sun exposure, can deplete your collagen levels even faster. In short, this year-by-year escalating loss of collagen is a key reason people look older as they get older, and explains why over time your skin sags and wrinkles, your hair gets thinner, your nails lose their strength, joints become stiff, recovery from activity and exercise slows down, and digestion-related complaints seem to pop up out of nowhere, and in general, our bodies just turn on us. Some of the benefits of using collagen are making your skin healthy and supple and giving you a youthful look, making your hair healthy and younger looking, supporting your joint flexibility, strengthening your nails, teeth, and gums, promoting strong, healthy muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and promoting strong, healthy bones and digestive health. So visit my page at healthwithredpill.com and purchase the only collagen on the market that I trust. Your link is in the description, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Sue Randall, I saw your message. I would love to get Kevin Shipp on the program. Don't know if I'm going to have time to watch his latest video, but I'll do my best. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As always, I'm RP, and here is my co-host, M3.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing, Red Pill?
I'm doing real good, buddy. Doing real good. And I just wanted to say at the outset, I'm going to be using this collagen product, so you guys will have to tell me if I look any younger than I do already, if my hair maintains a youthful glow, or if my skin starts to look better.
Well, yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting week, huh?
I think it's going to be very interesting, very interesting. Adding to the things we already know about, Trump Be Cool said 4/27/61 was the anniversary of JFK's President and the Press speech. Everyone should listen to it again. It is so telling, fantastic. I have to agree with you. It was a kind of shuffled away into the annals of history. Lots of truth in that one. Crazy Boots says, I wish you had a Venmo. Venmo is, I mean, I suppose I can get a Venmo. I've never thought about it before. In fact, only until very recently, I didn't even know what Venmo was. I'll be real honest with you. But I will go ahead and sign up for a Venmo, and then I'll put the information in the description below. Tina Baldwin says, got a landmark speech, and I think that it probably should have been the speech that President Kennedy was remembered for the best. But so much, Tina. Appreciate that. Oh, yes, and Mom, I would love to have you come over and walk the dogs with me after the show. Just be here at 3 o'clock, and we'll hit the trails. Okay, so, big news of the day, Methods. Big news of the day. It looks like General Flynn is probably going to be exonerated, if not this week, although that's the prediction. If not this week, I would say it's got to be coming in the very near future. I mean, this is probably the best news we've gotten in months. This is my opinion.
Right. Well, first off, I'm seeing in the chat that we're buffering a lot of spinning and stuff going on, and so I don't know what to do about that. You're fine with me, and on my screen everything looks great, so I guess we'll keep trucking along. But yeah, no, it does definitely look like things are coming to a head with everything happening quickly.
Yeah. With
Flynn's letter on Friday, the bringing up the special prosecutor that's been assigned. What was it? Just within the last few months, right?
Yeah, it was early January, if not late December. The special prosecutor appointed by Attorney General Barr was a St. Louis federal prosecutor. And this guy was appointed by President Trump back in 2017, so we know that at the very least he's going to be fair. I don't want to say that he's going to favor General Flynn, but I mean, as an armchair federal prosecutor myself, all you need to do is take a look at the evidence that we've already been shown in the public domain. I always wonder, the information that comes out in the news, how much of that is getting to the judge? How much of that is getting to the other people involved in the case? I mean, you'd think I would think that if a judge was presiding over something like this, they might pay attention to that stuff. But I also realize that maybe they try to shy away from it so that they don't get any influence. Like a jury, they tell a jury not to read the news about whatever case they're presiding over. But then, of course, we always have situations like Roger Stone, where the people are deeply invested in the case because they hate Roger and they hate the people that Roger works with. But the judge in this case, it seemed to me, the things that I heard, seemed to be a pretty fair individual. He didn't just nail Flynn to the wall in the same way that Contreras seemed to be nailing Flynn to the wall. And now, with the appointment of this special prosecutor coming in, taking a look for just a matter of weeks, I guess a couple of months when you want to put it together, but a couple of months taking a look at the documents in the case, and boom, Brady material just magically appears, exculpatory information. And because he was tasked with looking at the case with a fair and reasonable eye, immediately gave that information over to Sidney Powell and Flynn and his team, as well as to the court. You may not know this, although something tells me that most of you do know this. Brady material, the exculpatory information, that is information that proves the innocence of the accused. The government has a reasonable responsibility to provide exculpatory information to the defense if they have the evidence to state that that person is innocent. Why? Because it stops unfair prosecution. If the government, the one charging the defendant, has information proving the innocence of that defendant, then there is no need or rationale or reasoning for that case to even exist. So, what's been done to General Flynn has been a travesty of justice. And I'm quoting A.G. Barr when I say that, even though he wasn't talking about this case. It all starts with Flynn. You go back to the very beginning. First we F Flynn, then we F Trump. It began with Flynn because Flynn knew where the bodies were buried. Methods, we were talking before the show, and you had seen an interesting clip with Devin Nunes. You want to tell us about that?
Well, yeah, no, I just remembered it from watching CPAC, because when you got Bongino interviewing Nunes, that's a part I am definitely going to catch. So when, with this Flynn stuff coming up, and any advice that I can give people right now as far as what to dig on, stuff like that, because we're getting a favorite Anon post once a week right now.
Yeah.
I would definitely be going back and looking at all the different clips of the media, or people like politicians in the media, all these, bad actors that were, interviewed during hearings and stuff like that, testifying or whatnot. I would go watch and see what they said, because they had to have known a lot of this stuff that's coming out now, and then they went and publicly lied about it. So having those clips and bringing them back to light is definitely going to be, helpful. I just spent a little time this morning and I was able to find, a bunch of different stuff that I'm going to probably put out later. But anyways, back to that point, and I'll drop the tweet, not to shamelessly plug my own tweet, but it's the clip's there. So here
At
we are.
Into Madness.
Right. Follow me. Yeah, I mean, the clip basically, Nunes is explaining, at least to him, one of the main reasons why Flynn was targeted. And because Flynn told him that he wanted to drain the swamp of the intel community, the National Security Council, all of that. He wanted to drain, and showed Nunes who he wanted to drain. So who targeted him? The intel community. Yep. So, and he said that one of his biggest concerns was politicizing information to use it to go after, your opponents.
Wow, what a coincidence.
What happened to Flynn? What's been going on to Trump for 3-4 years now, everybody else. So, here's the tweet, guys, so you can have it. I mean, it's just a good reminder of that's what, you need to understand intent if it's going to be proven, because the biggest problem that we're going to have in explaining any form of indictment or any actions taken by the DOJ is proving intent. Because if you can explain it logically to someone and say, well, hey, he was going to do this and, fire people from jobs because they weren't necessary. And then, if a boss is about to fire you, so you go and, file a complaint to HR on your boss and make up stuff to keep your job in place, that's, if you can explain it logically to people, they might be able to grasp it, because there's going to be so much spin. Why do you think the movement was created? To counteract and give the proof and explain things reasonably. So finding those clips are always good. So I suggest, if you get bored, go back and watch this stuff and watch these people say things, and even watch them squirm, watch their body language, and you can kind of see that they knew back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just an idea pulled from that thread of going back and taking a look. Many people are coming upon that WL webpage, showing all of the drops that they've put out over, the entire time that they've been operating. But I just, just keep in mind that none of that information is new, guys. So none of it is, I guess it's not revelatory, but for anyone who hasn't seen it, I would say that on a personal level, it can be. So there's nothing wrong with digging through that page, finding stuff that you've never, ever heard of. And it also might put some of the stuff that's happening today in context. If you can go back and, kind of draw that thread through all of those different drops and then see what's happened to the president and, perhaps the reasons why General Flynn had to be silenced, because he was going to neuter the very people that attacked him and the people that tried to remove President Trump from office. I'm very excited this week to see what happens with General Flynn. He deserves to be exonerated. He deserves to be restored, given restitution for the unfair prosecution that he's been put through. And I would say, there's mental and physical anguish and damages there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Sidney Powell does with this case now that he's hopefully going to be completely relinquished from any blame or any criminal proceedings.
Before you move on, you had brought up the WikiLeaks stuff, or the FBI drops that have been happening recently that are being shared around and stuff. Like, I'm not seeing new announcements of these things happening. So when, of course, go through the information, look at it, especially if you haven't, you'll find things, and you might drop something that some of us have seen, but somebody else hasn't. And that butterfly effect of information spreading is still, so it's great, but we have to at least mention it on these shows, because if we say nothing about it, then we're apparently avoiding information.
Yeah.
But with that said, as far as the FBI records vault goes, there's a Twitter account for it that I'm dropping the link for now. They cover all new ones. So if you're just curious, or if you just want to keep up to date, now they've obviously slowed down since Kung flu season happened. But that Twitter is when I find out about any declassified FBI documents.
Excellent. Okay, so Trump Be Cool said it is all my anniversary to the it is all my anniversary to the most beautiful redhead I have ever laid eyes on. 3 kids who I delivered myself, and 23 years later, I am still happier than I ever thought one man could be. Trump Be Cool, that is incredible to hear, and I bet you love her just as much as the day you first laid eyes on her, even more perhaps. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Red Pill 78 Mom, my mom, please give a shout out to Atomic 419. We had a nice conversation on a channel I'm no longer subscribed to. Love, Mom. All right, Atomic 419. Thanks for hanging out with my mom. Red Pills Warhawk says, Red Light Super Chat. I love your mom, bro. She's pretty sweet, dude. She's pretty sweet. Tracy Smith says, would not have stayed grounded throughout all of this without y'all. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much for that, Tracy. I'm happy that we've been able to give you guys something to look forward to here. You know, one thing that I see people getting anxious about is the idea of forced poking and prodding, being told that they can't return to work or something unless they get some type of shot. I don't think that's going to happen. Methods, do you think that's a legitimate possibility? Because I seem to remember President Trump having some level of awareness of the safety surrounding those shots that are supposed to give people fake immunity.
Right. Well, I mean, I can see them trying to do it. That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of profit to be made. And on top of that, whatever, ramifications down the line, health-wise, it keeps people sick. Health industry's big business on that stuff. Do I think that they'll get away with it? No, I don't, because there's too many states that are really red and would be really against it and would fight back. So even using the precedents of like a California or a New York doing it, it's not gonna go. If anything, move away from those places.
Yeah. Excellent opportunity.
Right. I mean, I'd stay at least through November so you could vote for Trump. But then after that, you don't want to live in certain places like that. But I get it. People get stuck. Finances. It's hard to move state to state. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't think that it's going to become mandatory. And if it is, then they're going to just have to handcuff me because I ain't doing it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. Nothing to fear, you guys. They're not going to succeed in that effort, whatever they may do. So we wanted to touch a little bit on perhaps some of the reasoning behind why General Flynn has been targeted in the way he has. It's no coincidence that the top federal prosecutor on the Flynn case, his name is Brandon Van Grack. You may have heard his name before. It should be somewhat familiar. He also happened to work on the Mueller team. He was one of the prosecutors working on the Mueller team. And apparently, RDoc said something about there being some sharing of information between General Flynn and the Mueller team. I know that they were trying to get him to say something about President Trump, to give some type of evidence or information. There was nothing to give, so he never did. But it was part of his plea agreement, but he was one of the original 13 angry Democrats. So clearly, Brandon Van Grack is part of this whole operation to remove General Flynn and remove President Trump. So I want you to keep an eye on that name, because due to the fact that this exculpatory information exists and Van Grack lied, telling Sidney Powell and telling the court that he had handed all of it over. And now the special prosecutor comes in and says, oop, what's this? And here, we're going to have to give this to Sidney Powell, and we're going to have to give it to the court. He's going to get in some amount of trouble for that. So keep your eyes on Brandon Van Grack. He is definitely not a worthy person to hold the title of federal prosecutor. I hope that Van Grack is going to go the way of the dodo. So we also wanted to talk about...
But before you move on past that, because like I said, I've been spending some of my morning just going over the history around Flynn just to catch myself up and find things. And I find it interesting that Obama told Trump he was highly against Trump hiring Flynn. So he was really trying to keep him out of there. And also the White House had put out a statement when all the Flynn stuff was going down and said that the Obama administration was the ones that allowed him to do what he was doing with the FARA stuff and all that. to where they were basically, the writing on the wall is that he was being set up, and we all know that.
Yeah.
But you could find those pieces out there. But Flynn would know about, he used to talk a lot about the origins of ISIS. He'd talk about, Benghazi. He'd talk about what else? I mean, he just knows so much information that they were so terrified of him that they made sure to take him out. And we're apparently this week he could, go on a press conference tour and do all that. But that's definitely going to be a day of celebration, to see, that headline exonerated.
Yes, exactly. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing General Flynn get out and do an interview tour. I would imagine as soon as this proceeding wraps up and winds down, they're going to be talking to him about other investigations that I would think have been taking place this entire time. I mean, the names that we know are only the names that we know. There are multiple federal prosecutors for every single state in the union. Well, maybe not every. I think maybe like a couple of states have just a single, but I mean, it's based on population, I think. So there are plenty of federal prosecutors who can be looking into this stuff. So just keep your eyes open. I think this is not the end of it. We're going to keep hearing more.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Flynn this whole time had been writing a tell-all book? I'm not saying there's rumors out there. Don't quote me, but I'm just saying, like, he's already written books before. It would be fascinating if someone like him just wrote a tell-all book about all this stuff and put it out there once he's exonerated.
I gotta think. I mean, that's the kind of thing a smart man would do, and General Flynn is a pretty intelligent puppy. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. So Tara Reid, former campaign aide to Uncle Joe, Tara Reid. I'm sure everyone's aware that she's made some claims against Uncle Joe. And to date, not a single Democrat has even acknowledged the fact that these claims have been made. But it's getting deeper now, because she actually had a former neighbor who's a supporter of Uncle Joe come forward and say that she was given a contemporaneous event retelling at the time that this happened. So at the time it happened, Tara Reid was digitally inserted, and Uncle Joe did it. She told her neighbor, and then that woman remembers, and now she's coming forward despite the fact that she was planning on voting for Joe Biden. I mean, Methods, what do you think this is going to do anything?
Well, I mean, it's great to come out, especially when you mirror it with the whole Kavanaugh situation, because they wanted to throw yearbook stuff in our face and have people come out of the woodwork and make these accusations. And they supported those accusations that ended up being proven false. Why can't we at least support and see where these go? So it's just, once again, you're getting that display, and people in this movement, I know it just makes us even more angrier about seeing this stuff. But think about the people that were so supportive of the Blasey Ford or whatever, that were just didn't have time. They were, we'll just use the word normie for lack of a better term, like can't pay attention to this stuff as much as the rest of the world, but they see these accusations against this president, or against Kavanaugh back then, and then now they're like, well, why won't the media talk about this? That's how you, like, the awakening happens in that form, when like the red pill kicks in and say, wait a second, there's a lot of bias going on here.
Yeah.
And that's why we attack and put things out there, we call out people like Alyssa Milano, and
Believe
Hillary.
all women until now.
Right. Where's the seance about that situation? But that, to me, we need more stuff to be said, because now we have another headline that's positive, because it's truthful. Apparently she's willing to go on record. So having these kind of things, it seeds in the consciousness of the public that, here's the bias, but also that's the guy that you're going to vote for, as these accusations against him right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that it's coming out. It's tragic that it's gone on so long, and just to see it get swept under the rug is just, it's disgusting. But at this point, what else do we expect?
So the woman, the other witness, Lorraine Sanchez is her name. She worked with Reid in an office of Uncle Joe at the time. Now, what's even worse about this is that, on top of the fact that the claims were rebuked by Uncle Joe in his office, they actually fired Tara Reid. They fired her for coming in and making this claim, sounding the alarm, saying that something untoward had happened. And so, I mean, it just really hammers home the idea that this man is a despicable individual. This is not the kind of person that we need running the country. And unfortunately, this is the type of person that has been running the country up until now. President Trump has taken us in a new direction. And if there's anybody out there who is not registered to vote or who is thinking about possibly not voting, please, I implore you, this election is more important than the one that we had in 2016. Why? Because if we do not continue the Trump agenda, if we do not continue to make America great again, we are going to backslide farther and faster than anyone can possibly imagine. This is more important than anybody knows. I mean, unless you're watching our show and you're paying attention, but not you guys. I'm talking about everybody else out there.
Well, I mean, take it a step further on that, because think about it. If we lose this election, this entire movement, the entire progress, the social media, everybody that you like to follow, all that stuff will be gone almost immediately. I can almost guarantee it, because they would censor the living hell out of all of us. And I know that they're doing it now, but if they get the, control of the wheel, all of this progress of keeping people in check and calling stuff out and supporting the president when he puts out stuff like tweets or whatever, like that'll be public enemy number one on their side. They will immediately come after us and have the tools to do so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be a real bad situation. This is not just another 4-year election, as we often like to say. Cindy DeKeen says 2019 flu USA infected 56,758,952 with 655,953 hospitalized. 53,694 died DCD MIA. You lost me at the end right there. Are you saying that 53,000 people total have passed as a result of the CV-19 that we find ourselves in right now? Maybe we can look that up. Methods, would you do me a favor and check up that Johns Hopkins website and see if we can get an accurate count on how many people globally have passed?
Right. Well, they did say earlier on the news that the reports out of China were 50 times less. That's a new estimation. So as far as any number that we read, I caught it right before we got into our pre-show talk.
Oh, wow.
And they were saying that it's more likely that China, so any number I can bring you, which I'll go look if you want, it's going to 50 times less out of China alone. So a global number I'm not too sure about. And also to this point that I see in this chat, Kelly22 says, is President Trump giving a briefing today? Anyone know? Well, we happen to have caught something right before the show.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Kaylee McEnany, our awesome new press secretary, I'll just go ahead and cover it now so everybody knows, and I'll drop the tweet in here. She says that update, the White House has additional testing guidance and other announcements about safely opening up America again. President Trump will brief the nation during a press conference this evening. Now, I don't know what time. I'm sure it'll be around the time that they typically been doing it. But yeah, I thought before the show, before we got started, that we weren't going to get one. But, if it comes from Kaylee, then I'm going to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, we had this story initially pulled up. White House cancels Monday's CV-19 task force briefing. And then we got the tweet from Kaylee. So, yeah, like Method said, I'm going to put my stock in Kaylee because she's got a direct connection to the president. So, good stuff. I mean, anytime, even if you had a scheduled time for one of these press briefings, I think it's safe to say that you can go ahead and move it back a couple hours. I mean, they always push it back a little bit.
Right. And Rebecca CV out there says 50 times less than what? Oh, the reports of cases and deaths and all that stuff that China was giving to the world. They're estimating now, based off the research, that it's 50 times more than that.
Okay.
Whatever. Now, I just caught it. They were talking about it in discussion. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the conversation was about how China's been lying a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and Cindy specified that the 53,000 is the number of people who have expired from the flu, just the regular flu, which is quite a bit more than what we have from the CV-19 in this country. Red Pills Warhawk says, another red light, the public trust will be restored. Yeah, I mean, it has to be. People are constantly, it happened on the show over the weekend, what if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? I think President Trump and his team they understand that in order to be successful and in order to make our country great again, they have to restore the public trust. They have to bring us back to a place where we can look at our government and say, all right, I can buy what it is you're trying to feed me, rather than, questioning every single thing that happens or comes out of their mouths. I mean, as it is right now, we don't trust the mainstream media. And that's with good reason. I don't know that will ever be restored. I mean, it has to be restored in another way. We have to be able to know that the information that we're receiving is legitimate. And as it stands right now, pretty much, everything that we're being given is propaganda. The only time I trust it is when it's coming directly from some of my trusted news sources or from the president, and otherwise, I mean, it's a bunch of bullpucky. Stephanie Sprague says, Trump loses the election, we will have a civil war. That's another part of it. If we don't restore the public trust, and if President Trump is not allowed to continue, if they steal this election in November, people are going to be very angry. People are going to be up in arms, and they're going to be out in the streets. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we do that. I'm just being realistic about this. We cannot go back to what we had before. America must move forward. And if we are forced to go anything other than forward, it's going to be a bad situation here. Thanks again, Cindy and Stephanie. And Gino said, I think Flynn's exoneration will be the first block to fall in the house of hoaxes. Truth is coming in so many departments of government, we won't be able to keep up. I think he's right. I mean, like I said earlier, it all started with Flynn. This entire situation, they knew exactly what General Flynn would do if he got into President Trump's government. They knew that he knew where the bodies were buried, what skeletons were in which closets, and clearly General Flynn wasn't shy about talking about that with people as he was coming on through the transition team. General Flynn began this entire thing. They tried to use him to then get to President Trump. They were unsuccessful. They had to, go and use their other insurance policies and ensure that they were going to try to get President Trump removed. None of it worked. Everybody is going to basically be on the chopping block at this point.
And what better way to have, this, quote, first set of indictments to be directly related to the explanation of why Flynn is exonerated, because it's the same people. And I still believe that this first set's going to have a lot to do with the FBI and what they did.
Oh, yeah.
And, with our favorite Anon saying FISA equals start, this would all be these same bad actors that targeted him. It would make a lot of sense to exonerate and then, give the evidence. And then that evidence publicly should justify the indictments on that side. And before you move forward, we got 4,200 people here hanging out, more than that a little bit. I see 1.3 thousand likes. If you guys don't mind clicking the like button. And I'd also like to thank everybody that showed up in my PayPal. I really appreciate it, guys. So, go ahead, Red Pill.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. If we can get that up to at least 50% on the likes, that would just be incredible. Want to say hello to Buford Pusser here too, buddy. He has made it to a live show. Thanks for coming, Buford. Appreciate you. And then finally, thank you to Son of a Green Card. Says, keep it up. Keep it up. All right. So the next story that we wanted to go back to Joe Biden, talking about the fact that not a single Democratic senator will acknowledge what's happening. And I think that as a result, Jill Biden is now out on the campaign trail speaking for Joe because they're afraid that somebody is going to ask the question, what do you know about Tara Reid? What happened with Tara Reid? So, clearly Joe isn't going anywhere. He's only doing stuff from inside his home. But now he's had Jill actually record his new campaign message. It just goes to show that Jill and Joe are pretty concerned about the situation that they find themselves in right now. Joe is not going to open his mouth for fear of not saying the correct thing, for fear of potentially having to answer for his past misdeeds. This is going to be a bad year for Joe Biden. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is
before you go on that. Think about what Hillary did when all the accusations and stuff happened with Bill, right? She was the one doing a lot of sitting down with reporters and stuff like that, defending Bill Clinton. So now you've got the same kind of situation here. Well, you have the understanding wife who doesn't believe the truth, stands by her husband, show the unity and all that stuff. So that makes it's a cheesy tactic, but it makes sense for them to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Rudy Giuliani is back in the news. He was speaking out about the situation in Wuhan. I'm sure that everybody remembers over the last week or two, there's been some rumblings about the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, providing millions of dollars in research and grant funding to the Level 4 biolab, which is in Wuhan, China. Now, Dr. Tony Fauci, who we know very well, has been the director of the NIH, and specifically back in 2015 when he was the director, they gave a grant of $3.7 million to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So it's kind of coming to light that perhaps inadvertently or perhaps directly, the last presidential administration had a direct hand in funding and helping to keep that institute open and doing their research, which means that they are potentially directly involved with the creation of the situation we find ourselves in right now. Pretty interesting stuff.
Right. And this will probably be the most tinfoil hat stuff I'll talk about as far as speculating about the what ifs, because, you know, we always try to just keep it somewhat in a closed perimeter. Mm-hmm. To me, it's plausible to consider that this whole pandemic situation was going to happen anyways. You know, we talk a lot about it being released because of what's going on in Trump's America and how defeating him, you know, in the election and hurting the economy and all that stuff. To me, for a global type of domination type thing, the control that they obviously were building towards having, they would have wanted to release this anyways, right? Because look at what's happened. Mm-hmm. You know, they got everybody closed off in corners. Now imagine, I know that I'm about to make everybody sick. Imagine if Hillary was president during all this, right? Having that situation and how much she, you know, bows to China, and everybody who's in, you know, the Democrats stuff bows to China. China would have been the savior in this situation. Mm-hmm. They would have profited heavily off the essential stuff like mask and all that stuff. The sales, the medicine. It would have been a money grab that would have, you know, outdone a lot of the different FF situations that we've had before for profiting. Mm-hmm. I also think that we would have gone down the roads of stuff that we're worried about here, as far as, you know, the injections that we'll call to help, you know, doing those things. And I also think, you know, people being chipped mm-hmm. was going to start coming into play in the whole mark of the beast conversation. Right. Like, I think to me that was always intended to happen as a card played. And I think that they just decided to do it anyways because they saw the benefits of hurting Trump and Trump's America.
Well, what's even more shocking about this transfer of funds is that at the time that they were given, the grants were actually outlawed. They had been outlawed a year prior to that in 2014. And on top of that, the State Department had been issuing dire warnings about the safety situation there at that lab. So what's interesting is that the NIH and the former presidential administration broke our laws in giving that money to that institute. So, you know, I mean, it gives us a lot of different things to think about. I mean, you make an excellent point there, Methods. No matter what, you know, this was probably planned to some degree because it would increase all of these additional costs. It's an excellent thing to have in your back pocket. Just in case we find ourselves in a situation like we are now where we've got President Trump in office. I mean, this is, you know, one of those contingencies upon contingencies that they have in their back pocket. They have a manual, a playbook where they can say, well, if A happens, then we can do B, C, or D. And I want to know how that money was transferred over there. I mean, what was the process to grant that money to this institute if it was against the law? Now, it would have to be that President Barry would have, must have, like, specifically authorized the transfer of that money. I mean, think about the Iran deal, okay? The transfer of that money that was made to Iran. Or if, you know, think about Cuba, President Obama opening business with Cuba. I mean, all of these countries that we're not supposed to be doing that stuff with, I mean, it was all under Barry that it became able to take place. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how this one plays out because this is a huge story. I mean, what did Dr. Fauci know? What did he know at the time? This was a big deal for them to transfer this money over there, and it was illegal. It was illegal. I want the knowledge. I want the information to hear what they did to make sure that this took place.
Right. I mean, if what are Giuliani's alleging that Obama made sure that money was sent there when it was either against regulations or just frowned upon. I see Ardoc out there in the chat saying that it wasn't illegal. Well, maybe there was just a regulation suggestion. We're not too sure about that. Feel free to research it. But the fact that Giuliani's alleging that Obama made sure they got that money and it was that few years back is very suspicious. And that's why I talk about the what ifs, because if they didn't think she would lose back then, what were they setting up for now? What kind of agreement was being made? Right? Because none of us even talked about this lab or that whole establishment until now. So what was the plan?
Yeah. And I'm trying to see, since this was a claim by Giuliani, I want to see if we can find any sauce on it saying that it's illegal. But nothing's coming up, of course. Need to say thank you to Jammer Drops a Hammer. Those who prefer the tranquility of servitude best be prepared to crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you. May your chains rest lightly on your skin, and posterity forget that you were our countrymen. That's a beautiful, beautiful passage right there. I absolutely love it. Let's go ahead and move on to some more information about the CV-19. So there's a couple of California doctors that are speaking out about the impact of this lockdown that we've had in the United States. Over, I think it was last Thursday, I did a story about the situation in Sweden. Sweden did not lock down their country. They have now reached herd immunity, which is a scientific term, which means that enough people have been have come in contact with the sickness. Now they essentially, most of the people there have antibodies. They are immune to it, and it's not going to spread. It's not going to be a plague. And they didn't have to destroy their economy. They didn't have to shut anything down, and everybody's going to be okay. So we did shut our economy down here in the United States at the behest of Doctors Fauci and Birx, and there has been zero statistically significant diversion between the shutdown or the non-shutdown. We still lost just as many people. It didn't slow anything down. The only thing that stopped us was gaining that herd immunity. Now, in places like New York, apparently 25% of the people there in New York City have actually gotten antibodies in their blood, so they've come in contact with it in some other form or another. And it didn't do anything. The closing of the country had no statistically significant effect on this country. So I would say that it's high time that we open back up. I was hoping that President Trump wasn't going to do the conference today because he did skip it yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I was thinking, well, heck, if we're not going to have any more conferences, maybe it's because they're just going to open the country and there's no need to come and talk to people anymore. But who knows? Maybe he's going to come out today and say, we're going to speed up the process. There's been a lot of local areas, cities, and states that are opening up. Georgia was the first to, open up a lot of their businesses that had been closed. President Trump said that he strongly disagreed with the governor of Georgia, but still, they're colleagues, and Georgia's going to be a test bed for everybody here. I don't know if anybody here is watching from Georgia. Yeah, 25% is very high. That's a lot of people who have antibodies, but unfortunately, it could have been much greater than that. We could have had a lot more people who would come in contact with it, and then, like I said the other day with chickenpox, everybody gets the chickenpox, it goes away, you don't have to worry about it again. Maybe this is just going to draw out the length of time that people are going to be sick and, getting put in the hospital. I don't know, but we need to change something here. I'm really hoping that President Trump is going to allow the country to open up and maybe speed things up. But did you watch any of the pressers over the weekend, Methods?
I caught parts of it, but I've been trying to take a little bit of time for myself to kind of unwind and doing all these shows and stuff. I enjoy it, love it, but I try to find time for myself or spend time with my wife when she's home. But the most fascinating thing about the presser stuff, it was the conversation about how sunlight kills it faster. Mm-hmm. That's very fascinating. That's very hopeful because that's nature's way of killing off something that that we have to deal with. So I think it's very, very good. And if they could prove that further, because a lot of people are cooped up, they're tired of being inside, allow them to go to the beach. If it's out there killing it, really quickly, and they could prove that, let people go out and live their lives, enjoy their time, the summers, it's all that. And also the conversation about the heal light with the injection of the light, the UV light therapy stuff. That's all just very fascinating to me, because if that's kind of a, and I'm not going to act like I'm a medical fairy or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah. Not medical advice.
Yeah. I don't give medical advice by any means. There's people like our friend Reid that's really, really good with that stuff. To me, if that kind of therapy, because they're attacking it so quickly, right? They're covering it up. They took down that didn't they take down their Twitter account and the YouTube of the people that were developing the technology for that?
Did they?
Yeah, they were taking
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I and if I'm wrong, the chat is going to help me with that. But the fact that it's being attacked already so quickly, if that can actually help people with other things, when we're talking about cancer or any other diseases, do that therapy, and we find out that they've known this for a long time, that kind of stuff, because that would also put 90 or 99% people in the hospital. They would be wanting to go there to get that therapy, right? Yeah. So to me, but in turn, having that out there finally would be such a blessing to help people, and to help people get through whatever they're dealing or what they end up getting in the future. So it's just, it's very interesting time that this can kind of be a segue into a better healthcare system besides taking pills and doing all that other mess.
Let's see. Sojourner 0703 said, no army, no shots fired. U.S. response show roadmap for conquering nation. Instill fear, citizens roll over in compliance. Concerning. Well, we were talking about this over the weekend. I don't see it that way. I think that people are starting to push back against this, and I don't think that they're going to be able to get away with this again. Everyone can see that this was a ruse from the very beginning. We had nothing to fear. Not to say that there aren't people who are sick as a result, but I don't know any. And all I know are anecdotal stories of people who seem like they were sick already, and they're just claiming that this is what did them in. So I don't think that they're going to be able to do this again. I think that President Trump has exposed these people for who they are and the liars that they are. And if they try to say, guess what's coming back, CV-19, people are going to say, whatever, I'm going to work. Rook Castle says, any thoughts on George Webb's theory about the Benassi family, Virginia, the technical officer of the WHO, NATO, Benassis having IP connection to China, World Military Games, and Benny the DJ? I don't know. I don't watch George Webb, so I don't know about his research directly. I can say that having followed George Webb in the past, it seems that he puts together some connections that are correct and then others that are not correct. I've done some research on some of his things that he's claimed in the past. I know that he has made some wildly inaccurate claims about my friend Nate Kane. So, I mean, I'll be honest, that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. But if this is something that anybody can send me any sauce on, I'll check it out. I'll be happy to look into it. Mark Bruninger says, we appreciate both RP and Methods. God bless you both. Sue Randall says, Kevin Shipp interviewed Patrick Wood. He talks about the guy who made up the model they went on. He's the one you want on your show. Okay, awesome. Sue, I'll check it out. Bigfoot Anon says, do you think Adam Schiff will face actual justice? Oh, Methods, I'm going to give this one to you, dude. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, he was on the Gang of Eight. I mean, he's got that information.
Knowingly.
He knowingly, and that's been a point. It's just, step aside from whatever our favorite Anon said about him, which, was pretty centered and on him, which that doesn't happen that often. Mm-hmm. He knew, and not only that, he's obstructed justice along the way. Nunes wrote his memo about all this stuff. He had to write his counteracting memo. But regardless of that, him having, being able to go look at that information, he's known a lot of this stuff that we assumed, but we're now getting the federal documentation. He would have been able to read it. Mm-hmm. So the knowingly part of that situation is how, if justice is not dead, then he would definitely. So I do believe so. I do believe that he will be put in handcuffs. It's just a matter of how they plan to go about it because of how big. Like, I mean, okay, our favorite Anon says first set. Our Solomon said it'll be a handful at first. Mm-hmm. There all these implications mean that we're going to have a rolling out which I think was always the preferred plan, instead of locking down the country and just, let handcuffs rain down from the sky. I think that they're going to have to do it systematically because of, it being a PR thing to the public to understand and all of that. But yeah, just to, long story short, yes, I do believe that he will be arrested.
I agree. I mean, the fact that he was part of the Gang of Eight and he had such a direct role to play in keeping all this stuff secret, trying to, further this crazy, wild conspiracy theories against President Trump, absolutely ridiculous. So he's going to have to pay. Let's see. Herkimer Fuddwaddle says, after show, everyone go to Radio Archives to watch Dark to Light. Yes, the Frank and Beans show. Red, White, Blue Q says, Scamdemic. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Good old Jack Burton. Where's Robert De Niro to speak out against vaxxes when we need him? Yeah, where is Robert De Niro? He's keeping quiet. San Francisco Green Eyes says, Dr. Batar says the antibody test may just reflect other types of CV's exposure, maybe even from the flu shot. Very, very possible. But the big thing that I point to is going to be the situation in Sweden. They never did the lockdown. I said they are approaching herd immunity. They're not there yet, but they will be very soon. And you've got, limited cases, okay? They've got half the population of New York City, and they've got 1/10 of the cases that New York does. Now, is that because New York is just so packed with people, or is it other things that they told them to do that didn't help? Social Distancing Observer says, Illinois governor just extended the stay-at-home order till the end of May. I think that many people are going to be saying, forget this stay-at-home order, and people are going to start going outside. We just got word from the president and the task force that sunlight is an excellent disinfectant, an excellent medicine to combat whatever this thing is. So I would say, go ahead, go outside, get yourself some sunshine. They can't arrest all of us. Dale Bercier says, I believe the pain starts soon. New channels are beginning. Great Anon channels are getting together. Stay strong in the Lord and stick together. Where we go, one, we go all.
Hey,
I feel this is happening.
To that point about newer channels, our buddy Woke Societies.
Yes.
I actually just booked with him. He asked me to come on his show next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow. I'll be putting out all the information for it. I'm going to go hang out and chat with him, which is, going to be awesome because he had Severe Anon on about a week or two ago, and that was a really great conversation. I like Woke Societies. He's a good dude. And then also this Wednesday, I'm going to be back on with 412 Anon on his channel. And of course, I'll put that information out that day as well.
Yeah, I was trying to get booked with 412 myself, but I think I'm going to have to wait until after the stay-at-home order is done because my schedule right now, it's like as soon as we get done with this show, I got to make the 6 o'clock show, and then that would be when I would need to be on there. So enjoy your time, Methods. Enjoy your time.
It's always a good time chatting with those guys.
He's a great guy. DDTW Conspiracy Cast. Thanks for your bravery and brain. I just messed that one up. Thanks for your bravery and brain. Those mocked in the old world will be leaders of the new one. Where we go one, we go all worldwide. Love you, Red Pill, and all Anons. Hey, thank you very much, DDTW. That's for don't drink the water. Is that a reference to fluoride? That's a subject near and dear to my heart. So absolutely like hearing about that. Let's see. So what else did we have? Oh, gosh. This is disgusting. So I'm sure everybody heard that Michael Avenatti was let out of prison. What about what's his name? The other lawyer, President Trump's lawyer, Michael.
Are you talking about Manafort?
Not Manafort.
Manafort.
They're not letting Manafort out.
Yeah, right. I know we're laughing about it, but yeah, they definitely,
yeah.
Definitely put him.
Yeah, no, the other one that wrote the check supposedly to Stormy.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah, I can't remember either because he's irrelevant.
Cohen.
Yeah,
there we go.
I think I heard that.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, Cohen was going to get out. Well, have you guys ever heard of the Green River killer? He was a serial, killer that was active in Washington during the 80s and the 90s. There is a group that's trying to have him released because of CV-19. They say they want to get him out of prison. In what world, in what right mind would someone be to ask that this man be let out of prison? I mean, this is disgusting. He apparently is responsible for the the removal of between 48 and 71 women from the face of the earth between the 80s and the 90s. And then also another man in a 2008 incident, probably when they were arresting him. But this far-left legal group, Columbia Legal Services, has sued the state and argued for the immediate release of 12,000 prison inmates. 12,000 prison inmates. No mind what they were put in there for, what the reason is. This is just absolutely an affront to his victims and an affront to their families. I cannot believe that they would have the gall to try to get this done. And meanwhile, they're keeping people like Paul Manafort. They're, even George Papadopoulos served like 2 weeks. I mean, let's get real here. This is just ridiculous.
Right. I mean, and that's part of the system that we're trying to flip around. And that's why I'm grateful that the Senate said they're going to get right back to appointing judges, making them, official judges in the system of what Trump appointed them for. I think when they get back to things next month. So that's exciting because that's how you fix these kind of problems.
Yeah, and Avenatti definitely is out. Governor says maybe the reason POTUS has swamp creatures around him is to showcase them to the digital army anons so that digging can be done and the truth can be brought to the forefront. MSM won't do it. I think you're absolutely right. This is something we've talked about here on the channel before. President Trump surrounds him with these swamp creatures. Okay, not only is it good for us to know who not to trust and who to dig on, but also it keeps the rest of the swamp at bay while they think that President Trump is being controlled by these people that they're tight with. Lady Cobra 3 says, I am from Georgia. Businesses are opening but taking extra precautions. I'm in the high-risk section, and I'm not worried about going out and about. Well, I salute your bravery, and I think that you're right. You don't have anything to worry about. Populous 8 says, any of you ever doubted the plot for the one world order? Just look around and look at the news. Other countries and see illegal restrictions all implemented at the same time. Still don't believe. We were talking about this yesterday also. If this was simply a plan to lock everybody down, take our rights away, implement the one world government, I don't think President Trump would have allowed for ammunition and gun stores to be considered essential businesses. That would have been the first thing that they would have done. Take away our right to bear arms, and then people would have been really, really, easily taken over. Dana says, did you hear about the Beaumont, Texas mayor busted for getting her nails done during the shutdown? I have not, but it instantly recalls the incident with Chris Cuomo, rules for thee, not for me. These people think that they can, tell us to stay inside and do one thing. Meanwhile, they're out doing another. Dale Bercier says, prison release equals FF attempts. Ammunition is scarce. Yeah, this is really dangerous to allow all those prisoners just to wander the streets. I mean, what do you guys think they're going to do? They're going to immediately go out and commit crimes.
Well, think about the caravans, and I'm not trying to say everybody in the caravan's a criminal, but think about how that the cartels and stuff had their little sleepers.
Yep.
Coming in through the caravan. It would be an obvious thing for that's the same thing. Okay, let's petition and get out these 10 to 12,000 people in prison, because they're being held during this pandemic. Mm-hmm. And then they get, 5, 10, 20, 50 or whatever people that they want out to commit more crimes because they know they will, because they were put to jail and didn't rat, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely the same kind of Trojan horse theory in my
Adam 14041, streaking in the sun. Well, I don't know, maybe in your backyard. Steve J. HTD for life. What is the name of the collagen, and does it also make you squeal when you hear good news? I don't have it open in front of me right now, but if you click that link to go to healthwithredpill.com, you can check it out there. They're a new sponsor. I'm still waiting for my samples to get here in the mail, but I'm excited to use it and share it with my family as well. Sue Randall says, Pelosi is pushing for prisoner release too. She has the ACLU involved. Seems racist to think all prisoners are black. Yeah, I think that's an oversimplification. Berserker Bear says, Dems releasing prisoners trying to get their muscle back on the street. Exactly. If Pelosi is pushing for it, you know it's not good for the country. Chris Hawkins says, we are missing 3,000 likes. It's nice and easy to do. Here you go. Show some love. 2.2 thousand likes, almost 5,000 people here. Thank you to everybody who did leave a like. Allison Blyer says, Illinois governor emergency powers are legally limited to 30 days. If someone sued or fought arrest through court, haven't emergency powers expired? That is an excellent point, and I don't know enough about the Illinois law to be able to comment on it, but maybe some of my other viewers, I can think of one viewer in particular who is not here. Perhaps they can comment on it in another stream. Knucklehead745, don't fall for the beef shortage. The deep state saw how well the white hat toilet paper run worked, and they're trying to reproduce it with beef and chicken. And then Rook Castle says, drive safe, Red Pills Warhawk. Definitely drive safe, Red Pills Warhawk. Thank you, everybody who joined us today. Thank you, Rook's Castle, for that. And like I said, if anybody has information that they can send me on something that George Wood is talking about, I have seen him put out good information before, but I just stopped watching when he said that stuff about Nate, because I knew it to not be true. Methods, thanks for being here with me, buddy. I appreciate you, as always.
Yep. Had a good one. Great start to the week. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the day. We love you, and we will be back at this tomorrow, same time.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'll see you at 6 p.m. tonight for your daily Red Pill News Brief. And good luck and God bless.